Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Ascension with A Course in Miracles. Today is Wednesday, March the 29th. It's hard to believe that the first quarter of this year is almost over. I've got my little puppy in the background. That's why I've blurred the screen because I'm actually doing this in a different spot, as you can tell, than I have done before because I'm going through a transition. I'm at a new beginning. That's what the chapter that we're reading in the text is chapter 30, titled The New Beginning. My life is the story of Laina's life coincides with a new beginning as we're reading this chapter, The New Beginning, because the world is going through a new beginning. As within, so without. So I'm staying at a friend's house while I'm still looking for my permanent home in Colorado, where I moved to, so I could be close to my daughter and my grandson, because I know that the world is going through a new beginning. And for this new beginning to come, as the Course in Miracles has taught us, we're letting go of the old world. And the old world that we're letting go of doesn't want to be let go of. And here's why. It's not that the world doesn't want to be dissolved, is that the world is currently run by people who listen to the voice of their ego. They don't want to give up the positions that they have. They don't want to let go of what they believe gives them power. They want to remain in a state of control. So as we come inside, as we begin to understand the truth of who we are, so good to have you here, Miss Natalia. Um, are you back? Are you back in the country? I can't see where. Is that your sweetie back there? How awesome. But anyhow, as I was talking about, we are in the middle of a new beginning. The world is shifting, but the old world that the Course in Miracles is telling us is going to be collapsing. We're going to transcend it. We're going to leave it behind, like we're leaving behind an old toy when we begin to mature, like we leave behind an old pair of shoes when we move from size 2 to size 3. We are preparing for a new beginning. The reason this shift is so uncomfortable for so many is because the world is made up, primarily controlled, because we have given our power away. Remember, that's really the one problem that we have, is we gave our power to an authority external to us, not to the authority that is God within us. So as the world begins to fall apart, all that is happening is that people who have been listening to the voice of their ego, who have been in positions of control, are being exposed for what they're doing, because the ego is always selfish. The ego doesn't care about anybody else but itself. So those who have been awakening for, this has been going on for thousands of years, little by little, the momentum has been growing. First, there was one person, then there was two, then there was three. So if you look at percentages, the world right now has a greater percentage of people who realize we've got to do something that is for the greater good of all. So the selfishness in those of us who are awakening has been diminishing a lot. When you're no longer appearing selfish, you are no longer participating in the old ways that had us be in fear, that had us be in haves and have-nots, that had us give our power away for the illusion that somebody else could take care of us, that somebody else could provide for us. So when we come to the place of a new beginning, what the Course in Miracles really means is we have to choose to listen to the voice for God. We have to choose to do things from a place of love. The new beginning is when collectively there are enough of us who have said, we're done, enough of the old ways. And we're prepared to move into the co-creation of a new earth. So last week I was sharing, we only got through the first paragraph. So I'm going to read it, and then we're going to get into the next couple of paragraphs. Time permitting, we'll go however long we can. So the new beginning, this is the introduction into this chapter. The new beginning now becomes the focus of the curriculum. Why? Because we have spent 29 chapters learning about how we got into the situation that has created a world that the ego runs. So now we're going to focus on the new beginning. We have to make a decision that well, thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining me from Paris. This is so exciting to have an audience that includes somebody in Paris. Love you, Miss Natalia.
Thank you. Yeah, I have to go up to the room and get my charger and plug it in.
Go for it.
It's already after 6.
Oh,
Love
okay.
you. Good
Mwah.
to see you. Bye,
Hey,
Laina.
give your hubby a kiss for me. Give him a kiss and a hug for me. Sweet man that you're married to.
Yeah.
All right. Mwah, mwah. All right. So sentence number 2 says that the goal is clear, but now you need specific methods to attain it. What we desire is a world where we all live in peace. And when we get to that place of peace, that's just the beginning. That's just the foundation of what we can co-create together when we're all aligned with the same goal. So the goal is clear, but now we need to understand how to achieve it. The speed by which it can be reached depends on this one thing alone: the willingness to practice every step. This is where, in my, gosh, I've been on this journey for 2 decades now. I've been teaching what I've been learning for 17 years, 16, 17 years. And let me see. Wow. It's amazing how time has flown by. 16 years now. So I notice this happens to everybody. Everybody's so excited about world peace. Everybody's so excited about inner peace. Everybody gets so excited about, I'm going to become enlightened, especially in the spiritual community. We all want to become enlightened. We all want to connect with God. We all want to feel the presence. We all want to live in that space of love, joy, and peace. However, very few are willing to practice every single step. These are not easy steps, although they're very simple. Each one will help a little every time it is attempted. And together, will these steps lead you from dreams of judgment to forgiving dreams and out of pain and fear? This is a journey of a bazillion steps. And every day you practice these teachings, you practice these truths, you move one step closer to the end of the old world and one step closer to the beginning of the new. We are all moving in the direction of co-creating something new. And I say moving, although we're not going anywhere. We are just making the change internally. And as we make the change internally, we begin to see something new outside. We begin to project from within something absolutely new and beautiful. And what is so profound about this is that on this journey, we discover how powerful we are. And the Course in Miracles wants us to understand that the world that we see outside is projected from within us. This journey, if you keep going, leads you to the realization that there's only one of us here. And that one that we are is the creator of all that is. This is why I and the Father are one, is what Jesus wanted us to understand. He was crucified because he was speaking truths that were very inconvenient to those in those days, 2,000 years ago, like those today who want to teach that authority is outside of us. So Jesus wasn't here to start a new church. Jesus wasn't even a Christian. Jesus happened to be of Jewish descent. He was speaking to the people of his time the truth that sets us free, which is you and God are one. Begin to own the truth of who you are. Begin to remember that you are goodness, that you are pure creativity, and whatever you believe in becomes reality. So those who believe that they are in charge, they don't want the reality of we're all equal. Those who have been victimized, those who have been marginalized, we do absolutely want to create a world where we are equal. So we are at a place in time where maybe in Jesus's time, very few really truly believed what Jesus was saying, and very few Very few experienced that liberation while he was their teacher. Many went on to remember those things way after Jesus transitioned. In many cases, many, many years after. So many of us today know that we want to experience life as equals. Well, the old earth, the old world that we are about to leave behind is a world where those who are in power that we place there, by the way, this is all part of the process of atoning. We've got to realize how we projected power onto others who were operating from greed. And so what's going to happen? What's the result of somebody running the world from greed? They have more than you do, and they don't care. They don't care about you being able to be okay. As a matter of fact, we're in a world right now where we're experiencing World War III, where humanity is being little by little poisoned. Now, all of this is happening because internally we have poisoned our minds with untruths, as within, so without. Everything that's happening inside gets projected outside. So we have a world where we're just seeing the tip of the corruption, but what lies underneath, like an iceberg, what is below the surface of corruption is massive, because as within, so without. Within, we see a little bit of the corruption of our mind. When we begin this journey, we can see a little bit of our ego, but below the surface, there is a massive egoic structure that runs our lives. This is what this is saying, that we have to practice every step of this journey to transition from ego to God. To be able to do that, we take one step at a time. We practice this every day, every day, every day. What is the practice? It's really simple. Paying attention to what voice runs your life. Because if you're listening to the voice for God, it is always guiding you from a place of peace, from a place of trust, from a place of certainty, of clarity, and you're experiencing joy. And it is consistently always promoting the greater good of all, because it knows that we are one. If you're listening to the voice of the ego, you are consistently in a state of confusion, anxiety, uncertainty, worry, fear, because you believe in separation, you believe in haves and have-nots, you believe in some deserve it, some don't deserve it, you believe some are in charge, some are not, you believe in separation, which is nothing wrong with separation. We come to this planet, we incarnate to experience separation, but we're not meant to experience separation from fear. We are meant to experience separation from love. However, we have free will, so we can go into the darker places of the ego, which means we go as evil as we want to go. We are never punished, ever, 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 because a loving God doesn't punish if we choose to play with matches, if we choose to play in the dark spaces, if we choose to do things that are not loving. God doesn't punish us for that, because true love, the love that passes all understanding, that is incomprehensible, would never punish its own child. Now, in this world, we have made it okay for parents to punish children, even to the point that some parents will not only severely physically punish their children, besides the fact that all parents, myself included, emotionally have punished our children, have affected our children. And we do that. So we accept that there is a father figure, like the father of God out there in the sky, or the father, we call him father in church, the priest, the father, the government. We say, you guys have power. The principal, you at school, you have power. The doctor, you have power. So because our mind has been warped with misinformation for thousands of years, we are going through a big process of letting that crumble, because it's not sustainable. When all the money goes to one side and there's not enough on the other side, it's not sustainable. What about the regular people? And when I say regular people, I'm using words that we use in the world, the average Joe. But in reality, we are equal, meaning if everything was shared in an equitable way, not in a communist way, not in a socialist way. Those things are made up by the ego, by the way. When we share from our hearts, being opening up, because the minds are trained in truth, We know we don't need to have more than what we need. There's no need to hoard. There's no need to keep. I don't need to have 27,000 mansions because I only live in one place. And then we do the sharing. Things like, for example, Airbnb. What a wonderful concept to begin to get us to share our homes, to open up space for others. Now, a lot of the Airbnb is done for money. And that I get it. That's okay, because this world is ruled by how much can I get. But the world that we're moving to, we are going to be opening up our homes because we're going to trust one another. We're going to know each other. Our minds are not going to be polluted. Our minds are no longer going to be corrupted by egoic, selfish, greedy thinking. So as we move through this chapter 30th, by the way, Dondra, so glad that you joined us. It speaks that when we apply these steps, what we are doing is it leads us from the dream of judgment and to the dream of forgiveness. What that means is that we end the pain and fear of the ego, and we begin the joy and the collaboration of the soul. That is really what this awakening is about. Something inside of us that has been asleep for a very long time is waking up, and it says, I want to play, but I want to play by the rules of God. I don't want to play by the rules of the ego, because to play by the rules of the ego, this soul has to go to sleep. That's our connection to the truth of who we are. That's what allows us to know the goodness that is inside of us and to live from that space. So as within, so without, we live from goodness. We experience a life that is going to be good. But when our soul is sleeping inside, what happens is that we live from fear and project a world that is made of fear. So the world that we see is made up completely from projections that come from within us, which is why we've got to get really clear that we have to understand how powerful we are. And that is really such an important thing to understand. And I know a lot of people listening to this would say, Laina, why do you talk so much about the world of the ego, about politics? You're a spiritual teacher. Well, let me just say, when you begin to wake up, when the soul begins to awaken, just as it did with Jesus, you have the awareness, the eyes to see, the ears to hear what is not loving. And you don't judge it, as Jesus wasn't judging these people who were doing what they were doing, but he was speaking about it because he wanted people to wake up and see what was going on. When we are asleep, we give our power away. When you begin to wake up, you begin to point that out. You begin, if you're called to do that, by the way, it's not that everybody goes on to do that. But when you are in a state of recognition that we are all one, you cannot sit by and allow what is happening to the world to continue. Either you may contribute by prayer because you understand the power of it. You understand the power of visualizing what you prefer, because you know that the world that we experience it really is a mirage. It's all made up of energy. Nothing here is really truly solid. Now, our minds have been conditioned to believe that it is solid because we can touch the surface of the furniture. You can you open the door to the refrigerator, so it's solid. But it's because the mind is conditioned into believing that that is so. And just as if you were conditioned to believe that you are powerful from the time you're born and your thoughts create your reality, well, you could, like some yogis have done, some masters who have walked on this planet, turn water into wine, or just completely make things appear in your hands. But you have to not only believe it, but trust that you have that power. Well, we're little by little beginning to remember that we have that power. And as you begin to remember you have that power and you see the world from a state of complete awareness, you realize, well, then let me use this power for the greater good of all. Some are going to be serving in politics. Some are going to be serving in the medical world, in the new education system. And some are simply going to send money. Some will just sit in prayer and hold the vision of something grander and greater. Wherever you are on your journey, is perfect. So do only what you're inspired to do. But when you begin to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, you realize that the world is in a trance because the outer world has been, we've been trained that the outer world is real, and it is not. It is a projection from within out. That's why, as within, so without. So as I started sharing in the beginning of this call, that this chapter is called The Beginning, because I am going through a beginning. I'm beginning a new life in the physical world because I moved. I'm beginning a new experience because my insides, I am experiencing this incredible desire to serve in this world, not as a traditional spiritual teacher to help you discover about all the beautiful, wonderful things that happen when you awaken. I went through that stage. That stage was beautiful and it's wonderful. And I spent many, many years focusing on that. And I didn't want to see the darkness because I was grounding myself in the truth that is true always. It's all good. It's all love. It's all joy. But I am in a new beginning stage of life. I am a grandmother now. And as a grandmother who sees that my grandson is being indoctrinated into a world believing that the outside is real, believing that money comes from the outside, security, safety comes from the outside, and he is going to be trained by his parents who are, aware to a certain point, but not awake. They're teaching him the things that he is going to need to do to live in the world according to the old ways, but with more awareness. So they are at least aware that the government cannot be trusted because it's full of people who operate from ego. They get that, but they're still in the world and they're still of it. I, on the other hand, am in the world, but I'm not of it. I have been unplugging from a lot of the systems for many years. Because I am not going to feed a system that is not consistent with the systems that I know are possible. So I am at this new beginning stage of wanting to teach truths, but applying it to how can we be in the world, but not of it. And the Course in Miracles is perfect. Because if you understand A Course in Miracles, you become a warrior for truth. You become a true patriot. You truly get to understand that the world that we are experiencing, the ending of what is collapsing, has to collapse because it is projected from our egoic self. So you know that if you don't want that out there, you must no longer feed that inside of yourself. So what that means is that as we prepare for the new beginning, as the Course is telling us, my work is to help people who really, truly want to practice these steps, who want to embody the knowingness of our power, who want to live their lives completely in alignment that we are the creators of our reality. No blaming. There is nobody outside of us that can do that for us. However, while we are in this world, we are working with each other because we projected doctors out there, we projected teachers out there. So we meet those who vibrate at the frequency that we know is taking us to the next step. So this is saying, if you want to move out of the world of pain and suffering, you must take the steps. They're very simple. And like I said, this is where I see most spiritual people, and that just happens to be the group that I've been teaching, but I can say just about anybody fails to achieve their goals because they don't take the steps. The steps we think are too simplistic, or they're boring, or the ego just distracts us with going out to make money, going out to go, find the latest fashions, or distracts us with the latest, whatever it is that we're going to do, the next investment, the next thing. So we're constantly looking for the next thing outside of us instead of taking the next step inside of us. And as we take those next steps inside of us, we solidify, we create a house that cannot be rocked, because we establish a foundation that no matter what happens out there, that if it crumbles, and it's crumbling, and it's going to crumble even more, your insides are not rocked, because you know that what is happening is the old house is being torn out so that the new house can be built. We've seen that many times. The old building gets imploded so that the new building can be erected. And it takes time. It takes steps. You can't just decide, okay, I'm going to knock this thing down. It takes steps. So it takes steps for us to build a solid foundation within us. The goal is to realize that every thought that you have manifests in your reality. And if you are committed to the reality being a reality of goodness, of mercy, of holiness, of love, then you must have those thoughts as your consistent way of thinking. If you're in fear that you're going to lose your money, if you're in fear that you're going to lose your partner, if you're in fear that you're going to get sick, you are projecting that as your reality. You're saying that is a possibility. Now, while we are on this human experience, the Course tells us the script is written. We came in with an idea of what a scripted idea of what this world is going to be like and what our life experience is going to be like. So I hear people say, well, what about free will? Well, that was free will. We chose to come in here. While we're here, we have the ability to activate free will. The free will that we used before we incarnated was to will to come into the world of separation and activate the ego and believe the things that are taught of the ego. We agreed to that. Free will. Free will today will begin to change the script if you will to trust God. You have to do God's will and no longer yours, because your free will had you give up your memories of who you really truly are. Now your free will is about remembering who you truly are. Now, some things about this script might continue to get activated, and you might have those experiences. Like maybe you might get the sickness, maybe you might have the divorce, maybe you might lose everything. And you see it happening. But when you make through free will a choice to align with God's will, you will be the observer of it. And now that, whatever that is that's happening, that might have been labeled negative, you can experience it with love. You can experience every step of the way with love, because your house will be built on a foundation that is solid, and you won't want to give up your joy to be righteous about, oh my God, I can't believe I got this illness. But that's because you understand you are the projector of your reality. What you see out there is what you believe you deserve. And if you're believing you deserve, cancer, and you're in this egoic place, and you are angry, oh my God, I can't believe that I got cancer. And you go, you know what? I can have cancer. I can have cancer. It's an experience. Can I now go through this instead of going, oh, I deserve it because I was a bad person. I deserve it because I can experience anything that I want to experience. And I'm not the cancer. But what does it feel like to experience cancer with a joyful heart? Now you become an example for the world that the world is not used to, of people who move through the process with grace, with ease, with compassion, with kindness. Because if you know that you're not a body, you're not afraid of death, which the Course teaches us. I'm not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. So are you really truly 100% aligned with God's truth, and your house has been built on a solid foundation? Well, Jesus was. That's why he didn't argue about being crucified, because he knew he wasn't a body. Can you do that today? Can you allow yourself to be crucified, or to have cancer, to go through a divorce, or to lose all your money, and know that it's okay? It's just an experience. Well, that level of detachment, that level of freedom is what we're going to. That is the new beginning. People who are free from attachment, that from that space can co-create a world where all are equal, where there's no need to hoard, there's no need to have more than anybody else, there's no need to put it in the bank to keep it safe. There is a knowingness that we want transparency. We want to know who needs help. And I've got more, I'm going to extend it, because as I give it, I receive more of it, because I project the world that I am believing is possible. And if I believe in a world of abundance where there's no hoarding, there's no haves and have nots, then it must show up in my reality. But we have been trained into believing that there is a world of haves and have nots. And if you want to have, you got to work really hard. And if you get it, you got to protect it, because somebody else might take it from you. Well, that's the world that has become our reality. So this continues to say in paragraph number, I'm still in the introduction in chapter 30. It says in sentence number 6, they are not new to you. These steps that we're learning, they're not new to you, but they are more ideas than rules of thought as yet to you. All of us who enter the spiritual journey, and I see this all the time. We know we're one, but then we go out and get in our car and, oh my God, I can't believe the driver almost hit me. We know we're all one. It's an idea. And then all of a sudden, somebody in another world gets hurt, and you feel bad for a second. You watch it on the news, you feel bad, then you forget about them. We're all one as an idea in the mind, and that children are being abused. That children and women and other countries are being bombed and they're losing their homes. But do we really do something to help our brothers and sisters? And I'm not just saying this about people who don't do that. I'm talking about me too. Idea in the mind. Then it becomes a rule of thought, meaning it's what rules you. It's not okay for any child to be hurt. What am I doing about it? And this is what's so important, that we understand that as a powerful creator, I can do something about it. At this stage, my thoughts about the ending of the human trafficking remain something that I focus on, that I absolutely see that I don't want that happening. I contribute money to things like that, because to those who are helping, to those who are rescuing, I contribute to that because I can. Also, I am paying attention to who are the politicians that I am voting for. Is the voting process corrupted? Of course it is. It's run by egos who want to win. That's the game of the ego. I win, you lose. But I still participate because I share my views. I post, I talk about what I believe is true, not because I'm in a state where I used to be of judging what was wrong, because I'm bringing light to it. I am highlighting. It doesn't scare me. The darkness doesn't scare me anymore because it has no power, but it is a projection inside of me. Where do I abuse my inner child? I spent many, many, many years not listening to my inner child because I was so busy operating from my wounded self. So, of course, I see a world of wounded children because it was a projection of my inner wounded child. But my healed inner child, and my inner child didn't need to be healed, but it needed to come forward. It needed to move past the barrier of the story of woundedness so that I could find my inner source of power. Well, that part of me sees a world where all children are free. Now, the Course in Miracles taught me that it takes time to see in this world of time what it took time to create. So it's going to take time. And we've been seeing that since Jesus was here, 2,000 years, for people to have the idea that we are one, that we're powerful, that we're magnificent, that we should do to others as we want them to do unto us. It's an idea in our head, but has it become a rule? No, it's not the rule of the land yet, but more are beginning to establish organization systems that is foundational, that all are going to be treated as we want to be treated. So we got to move it from our head, where it's an idea, to the heart, where it becomes a rule, where it becomes, as it says here, a rule of thought. Your thinking and your being become one. So when the head and heart are aligned and they work together, it is powerful. What we get to co-create is absolutely powerful. And that has been happening little by little by little, started a long time ago. And it's going to take a while before all of humanity is operating from that rule. But we are being assisted. We are being assisted because so many of us desire that we just crossed a marker. If you understand astronomy, astrology, if you learn all of those things, if you see what's happening with the sun, the solar flares, if you are paying attention to as within, so without, well, the shaking in the outer world is because something is shaking inside many of us that are breaking through the limitations that were set up by our ego. And we are allowing the flares, the solar flares, the flares of love to extend. So we're getting solar flares from the sun extending toward us, because as within, so without. It is all happening together, as above, so below. We are all one. There is no separation. There is no that over there and me over here. This and that are one. Then it continues to say, so now we need to practice them a while. We got to practice these rules until they are the rules by which you live. We seek to make them habits now, so you will have them ready for whatever need. It is so challenging for people to take the thoughts, I am one. Do you know how many people think I am the creator of my own reality? And then they're cowering in fear. I did. My entire spiritual community that taught that the principles, I participated in two communities, Unity and Unity Church in Atlanta and the Spiritual Living Center in Atlanta. Both teach that we create our own reality, and both went on to promote the masking and the jabbing and all of those things. And they were okay telling others that if they don't take these things or they didn't put on the mask, they were not caring, they were not loving. What kind of a reality is that you're creating? If you create your own reality, why would you create the reality that other people can affect you? When you understand that you create your own reality and nothing can affect me, then nothing can affect you. And if you're still of the world and you believe that taking the jab is going to protect you, why would you even think somebody else can give you something that you don't want? Then that means that you have an idea that you create your own reality, but you don't really fully believe it. It's not become a rule for you. I walk around not at all thinking I'm going to catch anything from anybody else. Not at all. I gave that up a long time ago. That is not part of my reality. My reality is that I am the creator of it, and I better be believing what it is that I want to experience. Because if I'm not believing what I want to experience, I'm going to experience something I don't want to experience. It's that simple. So we have to have the habit of, if you believe that you are financially completely taken care of, that you are that abundance is part of your reality, you cannot be operating in fear. You cannot be looking at the checking account and worried, oh my God, do I have enough money to pay the rent next month? Because if you are believing that you're not going to have enough money to pay next month, you're creating that as a potential. You're creating the things that are going to give you the opportunity to experience that. But if on the other hand, you're clear that everything is this is an abundant universe, that you are safe in the mind of God, because that is where we all are, by the way. When you humble yourself enough to know that you're not that special, you're not alone, you're not that important, but you have access to the co-creation of the life experience that you want, when you are open enough to be able to practice asking for what you want. See, that's one of the biggest lessons humanity has to go through. We've all been conditioned to be so self-sufficient that I got to take care of me because nobody's going to take care of me. So we protect and we hoard and we have, and we, it's ours, and we accumulate it and we put our name to it. Our minds have been so trained into separation and lack. Part of my beginning was letting go of all of those things, walking out from a marriage where I know I could have asked for something, and he probably would have been willing to share. I spent many times assisting in taking care of the assets that we had. So you could say I was rightfully should have been rightfully mine, certain things that we had gotten together. Maybe I put the blood, sweat, and tears where he might have put the money. I could have done that, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to take things that I felt like, you know what, I can do without that. I don't need that in my life. I don't need that attachment. I don't need that story that somebody gave something to me. And that was part of my release. So in releasing that and releasing those assets, I found myself needing to ask for assistance. And when I began to ask friends and clients, okay, who's got a home that I can stay in? Who's got a room that I can be in? Those things began to open up, and people were so generous and loving and giving. I had to train my mind to move out of, I've got my own money and I go to the best stores, into going to Goodwill to buy some things because that's just what I needed. My mind went through the shame and the anger and the disappointment, the guilt, all of those things. And then I realized, well, clothes, whether it comes from the store, Macy's, and I pay $100 for a dress, or I get it for $4 at goodwill. So what if somebody wore it? It's got the energy of somebody who used it and went to a party in it. And then, wow, I get to wear that dress too. So my mind got trained into, I deliberately trained my mind into taking the thoughts from my head that were ideas that I am taken care of to manifest as a rule for me that yes, I am taken care of. I don't need anything from something else that I've got to get to protect me because I am in the mind of God and I am safe. I understand that we're all made of pure consciousness. I understand that this is all energy, not only just in my head, but in my heart. I know that that is true. So my attention is in from my heart, co-creating the world that I prefer to have. That's what this is all about. It's a habit for me to think the best for all of us. It's a habit for me to forgive those who are in fear. It's a habit for me to forgive those who are instilling fear. It's a habit because I wouldn't want to feel the discomfort of not having that habit, which means if I'm going to be judgmental, I'm going to be contracted. I'm going to be righteous. I'm going to be separating. I'm going to be making the world real, which is the very world that is falling apart because it's not real. You see how crazy it gets when you begin to realize that our mind has been conditioned with so much nonsense that stepping out of that nonsense, it's funny. It really is funny. All right. So in the next section, which is section number 1, rules for decision. So glad that you joined us, Ginger. I'm in chapter 30 of the text in A Course in Miracles. So we just read the introduction. Now, rules for decision. Paragraph 1. Decisions are continuous. It's not one and done. When you think, oh, I believe that we are one, and you walk around in separation, when you believe that you're abundant and you walk around in fear of lack, when you look at the news and the banks that are closing and that scares you, you're not making continuous decisions. You got to choose again, now, again, now, again, now. So as the banks crumble on the other side of the world and you go, oh goodness, that's too bad that happened to them. And you go, but I'm safe. And then it happens to your bank and you go to withdraw money. And let's say it's not there, or you can withdraw money, but the money is worthless because what is happening? All power, all value that we gave to the external world is collapsing because we're finding value inside, as within, so without. So it must happen in the outer world that those things collapse to give you evidence of 2 things. Is your house built on solid foundation? Have you made it a habit of not being afraid of what's happening because well, it's got to crumble. It's not made with love. And the second thing, it's giving you an opportunity to see how much you how much you value the external world. It's always 2 things: the value that you placed inside and the value that you have outside. And it's like a seesaw. If you value the outside world, which we all got trained in that 90%, then you only value your inner power 10%. If you value the outer world 60%, you only value the inner world 40%. So you might have 40% peace, but you're going to experience 60% of the things that happen upsetting you, scaring you, causing anxiety, causing shame, whatever that might be. When we tip the balance, then of course come all kinds of temptations because the outer world does not want anybody to reach 100% trusting the inner world and 0% faith in the outer world. That's what's happening. Humanity is shifting so that more of us are trusting God, are trusting truth, are trusting that this is an illusion, that it's like Play-Doh. We are playing with it. It's pliable, but we can only form, shift, shape the outer world if your inner world is shifted and you're solidly grounded in the truth of who you are. So you got to make continuous decisions because we all got indoctrinated through repetition. How did you learn the ABCs? You had to probably have said it 1,000 times before you had to say it again. When I'm thinking of words to say, I don't have to think, oh, A, B, C, D, E, oh, G, that's the next word or letter that I need to use. LMNOP, oh, P, P, we don't do that anymore, because that's already ingrained in us. And I'm, of course, learning all of that again because I'm watching my little grandson go through the process of repetition. Do you know how many times we have to say dog, that's a dog? And now finally he's starting, he says woof. That to him, that's what dog is. Dog says woof. The sheep says bah. So he thinks those animals are called wolf or woof and ba, but that's okay. Through repetition, eventually he will shift from the sounds that they make to the words that we have agreed to call these things. All right. Second sentence. You do not always know when you are making them, the decisions, but with a little practice, with the ones that you recognize, a set begins to form, which sees you through the rest. When we think that we are all one, that we are the creators of our own reality, we don't realize that we are, every single time that we give power outside of us, we are actually deciding that we're not one. We're deciding that separation is real. It's a decision that we're making. So we're making them continuously, but they're unconscious to us until we go through a process of making them conscious, getting clear about what we want to believe. And it takes however long it takes. And I'm going to say it takes sometimes decades for people, lifetimes, truly, but things are accelerating. So it may not take so long. But the more that you practice that as your truth and you literally embody it, you literally do whatever it takes to let that be what you believe consistently, then it becomes your new reality. Then the rest becomes relatively easy. It is not wise to let yourself become preoccupied with every step you take. It's easy to beat yourself up. Oh my gosh, there I went into fear again. Don't do that. Just go, oh, okay. Fear, I experienced fear. What was I not thinking? That would have led me to experience peace. Oh, I wasn't thinking truth. I wasn't thinking with God. All right, then you may have to go through a process. Where did I get this belief that had me go to fear? Oh, I learned that from grandmother. Grandmother, that is your belief. That is not my belief anymore. I am adopting the belief that I am safe in the mind of God. So you give it back to grandma, you give it back to whoever gave it to you, just like hand-me-down clothes. If you don't want to wear it, say no, thank you for sharing. I'm okay with this. I prefer to go get my own. So we are in this amazing process of seeing how powerful we are, but we don't see how powerful we are fully until we see how we have disempowered ourselves first. We have to acknowledge that we had experiences that formed and shaped our beliefs about ourselves in the world. Now, doesn't mean you can't change those beliefs. As a matter of fact, it's changing those beliefs that allow you to make a new decision. And when you make a decision, you have to continuously believe that, think that, and practice it until it becomes a habit of being. So the proper set of these steps, the proper set adopted consciously each time you wake will put you well ahead. So you wake up in the morning with the understanding that you are the creator of your reality. What kind of an experience do I want today? How do I want this week to go? And you realize that everything that shows up in your life, if it is scripted and it is not what you would today consciously choose, like I said, or earlier, an illness or a breakup or whatever, death of a family member, then you have free will. How are you going to perceive that? Are you going to perceive that with love? Are you going to perceive that from fear? That's a continuous decision that you have to make. That's what free will is all about. Am I going to choose to see it with love or fear, with God or my ego? That's it. That's free will. That is what free will is for, to choose to align with God's will or to continue to do your own based on the conditioning that creates your sense of separation. And if you find resistance strong and dedication weak, you're not ready. Sentence number 6. Most of us find the resistance to truth very strong. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want people to know that we're believing that we're powerful. And we still find it, one of the things that we resist is stop talking about the things that are low frequency. It's so hard to resist talking about that, telling people what terrible things happened. That was one of the first things that I realized early on in my journey, is that my words have power. And I used to talk at the water cooler about negative things. And when I stopped doing that, of course, some people thought that, oh, who do you think you are? You don't have anything wrong happening in your life. And I was like, I just don't give those things power. that there was a sister I couldn't talk to because she was all about negativity. It's all about, the sky is falling. So I couldn't talk to her. So that was a relationship that when I was with her, I was mostly silent, and she would talk about all the negative things in her life. And I was like, okay, I love you. I know you'll get through that. And I'm sure she wanted me to do as I had done before. What a terrible thing. I can't believe he did this to you. I can't believe that happened to you. I can't believe blah, 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 blah. I don't give that power anymore because that's not my reality. I'm making the habit of realizing that everybody, number one, is powerful. So I acknowledge everybody's a creator of their own reality. So I will never enter into feeling sorry for anybody else. For anybody, I don't do it for me. I'm not going to feel sorry for anybody else because that is to dishonor their powerful nature as God created it. And if I think that somebody is should be felt sorry for, and that then they must be a victim, that does not honor the truth that I know is true for all of us. That does not make us equal if one can be a victim of another. So all of these things, you've got to get clear. If the resistance is strong, if you're trying to avoid accepting your power, then your dedication is weak. There's nothing wrong with that, because that's a reality that you're creating. You're wanting to experience what it's like to not be able to experience freedom. That's okay, because that's giving you the contrast for when you are ready to experience freedom. Course in Miracles gets interpreted by a lot of people, even though the Course tells you that you cannot interpret what is there. You can only apply it. And if you are interpreting it, and I know many do, I did in the beginning, you take what you like and you leave what you don't. And typically what people like is that, oh, I'm powerful. I am love. I can choose love. But I don't project negativity. I don't project darkness. That terrible government, I didn't contribute to that. Hello, you're the creator of your reality. If it's happening in the world, it's because you projected it out there. But you have to realize that there's only one mind here. There's only one consciousness from where everything emanates. And the Course says it's you, meaning it's me. So you are a projection of my mind. I am a projection of your mind. And when everybody takes 100% responsibility for whether we are the only one and everything is projected from it, when you read headlines in the news of things you don't like, you put it there. You put it there. So look at it with the light of truth. Look at it. This is what I believe is going to be a massive shift that's going to happen pretty soon, when the spiritual, woke / liberal community, because it's a huge number, when they see that they have been supporting a group that has not been doing loving things, but they were too spiritual to look at the darkness. They were too spiritual to point to do the research that was necessary to see what was going on, that keeps us in the state of not moving forward. I mean, at some point you've got to go, well, I've been voting for this and it's still not getting better. Why? Then you got to point your light and look at it and go, it's coming from my denial that was happening because I was too spiritual to want to look at it. And that is going to be so, so powerful. And it's coming. We're very close. A whole bunch of people are going to see, oh my God, I was so deluded into believing in the Green New Deal, into believing Orange Man bad, into believing all these things that I got indoctrinated. And that's going to be a huge number immediately going to go, wow. More power is going to return to them, which means they're going to accept that they've got to see, they've got to utilize that goodness, number one, to go inside and own that they are powerful. And when they look at the world, they are seeing it through the eyes of God, not to judge it, but to say, wow, I have created this. If I really don't want the world to be polluted, then I must participate in changing my mind about it first, and making sure that I am clear that no one out there that is listening to the voice of their ego is attempting to pull me into a story that is not true, that keeps me in fear. So lots of things have to be pulled apart, because it's a clusterfuck of ideas that have created massive what mass consciousness agreements that we have participated in, all of these thought forms that we have agreed to have a massive structure that we have to pull apart, one thought system at a time. So anyways, it says here, if you find the resistance strong and dedication weak, you're not ready. Just forgive yourself if you're not ready to be 100% free. It's okay. Do not fight yourself, but think about the kind of day that you want and tell yourself there is a way in which this very day can happen just like that. Then try again and have the day you want. In the beginning, the day you want is a day where you are realizing that you want to pay attention to your thoughts. You become conscious of the thoughts. You're not trying to change the world out there. You're changing the world in here. As within, so without. Once the thoughts in you change, the world outside begins to change. It happens. You don't make it happen. It just is. You don't have to do it. It just is. Don't fight yourself. Don't be upset with yourself. Don't judge yourself. That does not get you to cross the line and enter the new beginning that awaits. And the new beginning is a loving beginning. It's a place where we really can look back and go, wow, wasn't that an exciting journey? Oh my God, we spent thousands of years in ego, in separation, in lack, in fear, creating illnesses, creating just things that provided incredible suffering. Wow, I contributed to that. Now, what do I want to contribute to? That becomes the work, if you want to call it that. That becomes the work, but it starts with you. What kind of a day do I want? I want a day where I'm mindful of my thoughts. And once you become mindful of your thoughts, you then progress to the next thing. And here it tells you, today I will make no decisions by myself. This is where we want to start. Today, I don't want to be deciding with my ego anymore. I want to align my will with God's. And see, to be able to align your will with God, you have to have done the work of no longer being afraid of God, no longer thinking God is bad, no longer putting God on the same level that we have with Santa Claus, out there deciding if I'm naughty or nice. We've got to cultivate a relationship with God and change the name of God if it's not a name that you're comfortable with. If you want to call it source, spirit, creator, universe, consciousness, it doesn't matter what you call it. You can call it Bambi, you can call it Buddha, you can call it Baba. It does not matter what we call it. It knows what it is. We are unlearning, really, removing all the beliefs that had us block our awareness that God is the creative source of all that is, and it's what we're made of. And once you accept that that's what you're made of the essence of God, then you understand what Jesus said. Oh, I and God are one. I and the Father and Mother of God are one. I and Buddha, Bambi, Baba are one. That creative energy is what I have access to. That is what is creating our reality. And it takes however long it takes for you to move from the idea that you're one with God to the knowingness that you are one with God. And then how do you use that power? Well, to do that, you must make a conscious, deliberate effort and decide again and again and again that you're not going to think with your ego anymore. You're not going to think by yourself anymore. You're going to want to ask, well, how would Jesus look at this? How would God look at this? If you're not ready to say God, ask, how would a person that you believe operates that way? Some of my clients have said that they think, oh, what would Laina do? Well, please don't put me at the level of Jesus, because I still have my own work to do. But there are a lot of decisions that I have made with God that have totally, completely changed my life. Like the decision to not fear anymore, like the decision to not be afraid of death, like the decision to not buy into the story that my self-worth is connected to my net worth. Letting go of all of those things have moved me more and more and more to the truth that has set me free, that is setting me free. Let me just say that is setting me free, because I absolutely trust 100% that God knows better than me. And God knows better than me because God is the bigger part of me that sees all of it when my mind can only see what's in front of me. So I have humbled myself enough to know that the greater part of me that God is where I go to get my answers. not from the individual people here in the world who are disconnected from God or who only have a small perspective. If I don't trust my finite perspective, I'm not going to trust other people's finite perspective, because I am trusting God. And God tells me to do things that this world thinks are crazy, like what I did when my son was going through his drug adventure, like many things about walking away of a lot of the things that the world would provide to have a world that, or a life that would be approved by the outer world. I don't need approval from the outer world, because I don't care what anybody thinks about me. I only care what God thinks about me. And God thinks that I'm pretty fucking awesome. I am magnificent in the eyes of God. So I want to live and tap into all of that magnificence. And that magnificence means that I'm gentle, that I am loving, that I am generous, that I am open-minded, that I don't need to defend myself, because in my defenselessness, my safety lies. It means that I'm willing to hear what anybody else has to say, because they're just opinions, they're just perspectives. Nobody's opinion contradicts what I believe is true if I'm grounded in my knowingness that I only listen to the voice for God. And let me tell you what, it's made it very interesting. It's made it a lot of fun, because there's a lot of wacky opinions out there, but they're all valid, because those are the creations that my brothers and sisters want to experience. And they're feeding those ideas back to the source. So the source is becoming more expanded because of all these ideas that we have about how to do things. However, the ideas of how to do things with fear are going to remain for the collective that wants to experience that. And the experiences that we want to have that have to do with love is what the collective is going to do. We are bifurcating. For a while, it's going to look like we're on this planet and we have totally separate groups of people. That's happening right now. We got the backs and the unbacks. We've got those divisions happening. We had the blacks and we had the whites. Now we got the trans and the ones that are not trans. I mean, it's crazy how many ways we've been dividing things until we understand that the beliefs that we are holding have a frequency, and we're all made of energy, meaning everything is energy condensing, which is low frequency, energy expanding, which is high frequency. So we're going to experience the groups that are going to be able to have conversations that are really loving and open and allow everybody to do whatever they want to do. And those who want to control things, who want to be special, who want to do it their way, and if people don't do it their way, well, then they're not good enough, or they're not whatever. They're going to have their reality, because they're creating that reality, and they deserve it as much as you and I deserve a reality that is different. So we are coming through our acceptance of the power that we have to create, to see the world bifurcating into two realities. And it's okay. You have to decide, are you going to be part of the new beginning, or are you going to stay with the old? There's nothing wrong with this. Don't judge yourself. Don't fight yourself, because you are going to be manifesting for yourself what you believe you want to experience. That is what's so beautiful about liberation, is you let everybody have whatever journey they want to have. We don't need to save anybody. We don't need to rescue anybody, because nobody's lost. Nobody's lost. They either remember that they're here to play the game of hide and seek and pretend that they have an ego and that they're separate, or they're remembering, oh, I have a separate body, let me use it. Instead of with the ego running the show, I'm doing it with God. And at whatever point you're ready to let go of the ego running the show, you're ready. But if you're not ready, don't fight it. Why? Because if you find the resistance strong to letting go of something, what that means is your dedication is weak. You're not ready, and it's perfectly okay. All right. So we're going to stop there where it says, today I will make no decisions by myself. That is the first thing that we must come to if we are advancing in our journey, is because you have to have seen the ego to know you don't want to make decisions with the ego anymore. This is advanced work. And this is the work that really sets apart, to me, those who are dedicated to building their house on solid foundation. Means you have healed your beliefs around God. You accept that you're one with a creative source. Doesn't matter what you call it. You recognize that your thoughts create your reality. You recognize that love is the most powerful, potent energy in the world, and you want to align with that because it expands. That's why it's powerful. It doesn't contract like the ego does. The ego is a contraction, which means it's a block to expansion. It's a block to love. It's a block to freedom. So it's a contraction. But if you want to feel that, it's okay. We all incarnated to feel contracted, but we all who are remembering incarnated to be the ones who say, I'm not going to stay contracted anymore. That's what awakening is all about. Many of us chose to incarnate with the script. I am going to be an example of one who no longer believes the rules of the world because I'm following the rules of God, the laws of God, which are eternal. They don't change. They don't waver like the laws of humans change because they change with each politician that enters, and they bring their own ideas, their own opinions. That's why it's so crazy. That's why we have so many laws, because everybody has a different idea. You decide to listen to only God. You decide to make no decisions except for God. We're going to see the laws in the government little by little begin to change, minimize, let go of so many idiotic things that are there, so many controlling things, so many stupid. I mean, really, it's like, how insane can these things be? Contradicting rules, most of them about trying to control people instead of acknowledging God created us free. That's why we have free will. And until we let people be whoever they want to be and make it popular again, that you get to do you and I get to do me. And then we don't have to have special things for this group or that group. Everybody gets to be free to do what they want to do, with the understanding that what you do should not be imposed on anybody else. Then the world is going to really, truly be a very different place. We're moving in that direction. Thank you so much for being here. And if you got a nugget from today that you want to share, by all means, unmute yourself. And if not, it's okay. This you don't have to share. The fact that you come and join just lets me know that you must obviously enjoy these transmissions, because I absolutely love being the vessel that has opened itself up to allow God to express, to just expand upon these teachings that are so simple, but the mind makes them complicated. So if you want to know more, today I believe is episode number 97. Maybe it's at number 98. We're approaching 100 that I've done. So about 3 years of doing these weekly conversations at 12 o'clock Eastern time. I call them Ascension with A Course in Miracles, because we're ascending in consciousness. We're raising our vibration. We're shifting and lifting into higher frequencies. So thank you for being here. I love you all. See you next week, Wednesday, 12 o'clock Eastern time. If you enjoyed this, share it with your friends. I always post the recordings in Facebook. So if this touched you, put it on your Facebook and let the world know that where you're getting some of your information. Fabulous. Thank you, Ms. Ginger. I appreciate that. Well, you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Love you all so much. Enjoy the completion of March and get ready for April. Is going to come bearing some interesting shockwaves. So, but if you built your house on solid ground, you're going to be okay. You'll be entertained by the insanity. Love you all. Bye-bye.